While it can be a bit reductive, it's not unheard of to try to derive from or assign to a specific short phrase or even one-word gameplay philosophy in accordance with each individual Zelda game. Ocarina of Time is about maturing, Twilight Princess is a game about responsibility, Wind Waker, legacy, Skyward Sword, origins. The Oracle games on the Game Boy Color took a pretty interesting approach, using power and wisdom themes respectively, with Seasons being a very action-oriented game, while Ages focused more on devious puzzles. But what is interesting is that usually when portraying the concepts of power and wisdom, the Zelda series balances it out as a trifecta with a third theme, that being courage. Courage is a central, key component in the series at large. Courage is the driving force behind assigning one character as the hero, an underdog, an everyman who must stand up to overwhelming odds and overcome great adversity. So much so that in those few instances in which the Triforce splits and itself resides within destined wielders, Link, the hero, embodies courage itself. Now we have a game that is clearly about wisdom, two actually, I guess, and a game that is clearly about power. But where is the game of courage? You may already know, in fact, that at some point during development, the Oracle titles were being worked on as a trilogy, not a duology, and that the concepts of that third game, which would have been the game of courage, were more or less absorbed by the other two. But I would argue that this is okay, because it would have been redundant. That such a Zelda game, the game of courage, already existed on the Game Boy. That game is Link's Awakening, a game with no Oracle to speak of. In fact, its development predates those titles, of course. And yet, in some ways, if we were to set aside the real-life development factors, it could be viewed through the lens of completing that trilogy. Link is shipwrecked and finds himself living among the denizens of Koholint Island. He is told that in order to leave, he must awaken the Windfish. And without even knowing what a Windfish is, he bravely sets out and begins his quest. Of course, Link is an experienced hero already, but along the way, he must face the nightmares of the very deity that he must free. Koholint is, after all, an illusion, a dream of the Windfish, and the dungeon bosses here are not just bosses. They are literal nightmares, albeit nightmares that Link absolutely shreds to pieces. Along his journey, Link forges a bond with a local girl named Marin. Marin has never known anything outside of the island, but she is wrapped up, consumed even by a rabid curiosity. She finds Link fascinating because he's the first new thing to ever show up on Koholint. He is an outsider, something from beyond. She wishes, more than anything, to explore past the borders of what she knows, to journey into the unknown and see the world with her own eyes. This is in itself a courageous yearning. There is safety at home, comfort in familiarity. It is somewhat in human nature to be drawn to what we know and to fear the unknown, the other. But she wants more. She wishes to leave the safety of Mabe Village and to start living on her terms. There is one more type of courage displayed by Link on his journey, arguably the most important one. Shortly before entering dungeon number 6, the Face Shrine, Link learns a terrible truth, a truth that will set him free, but also will spell disastrous consequences. That being the aforementioned fact that Koholint is a dream reality, and by waking the Windfish, he will be condemning the island and its inhabitants to utter annihilation. They will not be destroyed in the traditional sense, not like the way that Link has been facing and destroying the nightmares of a god, but worse, they will cease to exist entirely. Or, as far as Link knows, that is at the very least a huge and worrisome possibility, a risk he must take. That said, does the Windfish not deserve freedom too? It may carry the entirety of this small bubble of reality upon its eyelids, but the Windfish is a prisoner here, a deity taken hostage by its own nightmares, living in perpetual subconscious torment, Frankly speaking, a less brave soul may slink back home and ignore the reality of the nightmare that they are living in, seeking the comfort of the familiar. It takes courage to end this world, because despite it being the right thing to do, that does not make it an action without consequence. Consequences are scary, and doing nothing is easier, but Link still does. Despite that, despite the fact that by doing so he will lose the chance to ever see Marin again, quite literally, the girl of his dreams. I think selfishness is the antithesis of courage, so Link must let go. Courage. One last time, despite not knowing what will happen, who will be lost, or even where he will awaken. Other Zelda games tend to position the stakes as opposite to Link, rather than behind him. A kingdom or even just a princess that needs saving. And the stakes are, what will be lost if you do not succeed? But is it not a greater courage to instead succeed despite what you will lose in doing so? And that is the one-word theme of Link's Awakening in my eyes. A game of courage. Courage to explore, to face the unknown, to get a little vulnerable, to do what is right despite what you may lose. Courage to act despite it all. Courage above all else.